we get started.
Hi everyone, welcome to Talking Society. Thank you for joining us. Today, as always, we have host Jose and myself, Ziti, which I'll be asking questions. But I always do a get to know question. So today I'll ask you all, what's your favorite coffee and why? Like, does it represent? I guess. Hold on, let me rephrase the question.
If you were a coffee, which coffee would you be?
Which coffee represents your personality?
Which coffee represents my personality?
I just don't know.
I don't know enough about coffee, honestly.
Yeah. Maybe a latte. Cause
Maybe can we extend it to any drink?
Yeah,
maybe,
let's send it to any drink.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna go with coquito. Because not many people know about it, but once they know it, like they get to know it, they really like it.
And they connect it to Hoss.
Yeah.
He's usually the first
encounter with coquito. Yeah. You've never had coquito?
No.
That's gonna change this year.
What drink is it?
It's a Puerto Rican like coconut drink.
Uh-huh.
It's usually drank. You can drink it any time of year, obviously, but it's very popular around Christmas time. So it's people say it's the Puerto Rican equivalent of eggnog, but it doesn't traditionally have egg in it at all. So it's not eggnog. It's just a coconut drink.
It just tastes like Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah, it tastes like it. It has
good.
spices and stuff in it.
Okay.
So,
La Rompope, but from Puerto Rico.
Oh.
but it's a very different flavor profile.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it doesn't
But that
taste the
same
same.
feeling when you're putting a holiday in your mouth.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about? Like Rompope,
Yes.
when you're like, you get all these memories and it just feels like Christmas and the whole vibe.
Yeah.
It's like that, but tropical.
So I'll have to make some for you in Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Could you make it?
yeah, I can make
Yeah?
it. Yeah,
What ingredients does it have?
you think I can make it?
Only if you make me rice.
Yeah, I'll make you the rice if you pay me. It has leche de coco, crema de coco. I use leche fresca, leche condensada, leche evaporada, and then like canela and like those like you can start switching stuff
Vainilla.
up. Vainilla tiene, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I can make some. It's pretty nice.
It has more milks than tres leches. Huh? Mexicans say
It's 5 leche,
tres-
okay?
Oh yeah. Excuse me.
Cinc leche.
Let's see. If I could pick something, it would be. I was gonna say otai, which is a Polynesian drink,
Otay is very good.
and that's like
The watermelon, the mango,
it's fun.
good stuff.
It's like fun. It makes you want to have like a party.
Also very tropical.
Yeah, it's tropical, and I love watermelon a lot. And you get it on a cold day, and you just have watermelon juice and coconut in there, and on the ones that I had that I really like, they had coconut shavings. And I normally don't like coconut.
I like shavings or coconut itself.
No, I had coconut, but the shavings.
Yeah. I don't like coconut
It was
shavings
fresh.
typically. Yeah.
It wasn't like from a bag. They actually shaved the coconut. Man, and it was so good. And it was cold. I can't remember what other fruits it had in it. It's been a while. But that one is just like, it's fun, you know? It's like, it's watermelon, so it's classic, but then it has a lot of flavors that one's more, it's like a summer party in your mouth. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't had any of those two drinks.
Otay
to
is
try.
very
Man,
good.
we need to get
Yeah.
a culture. Do you think so, huh?
Oh, we do. We need to invite her to a couple barbecues.
Para la cultura.
Yes. Cool. I would say mine would be Coca-Cola.
I was going to say, I could have guessed Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Fizzy, effervescent, you know.
Have you ever gone to like a Swig's and got one of the Cokes from there?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And they were good?
Yes.
Dang. What about a Slurpee, a Coke Slurpee?
I don't think I had a
Oh,
Coke
wow, those are
Slurpee.
so-
The Slurpees are the ices. You never had one?
Yeah.
I think.
Because icy is Maverick and Slurpee is 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven.
They're like
I
the
think
same thing.
7-Eleven. I
The
probably have
7-Eleven
had.
Coke one? Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
It's very good. Yeah. It's underrated, actually.
Yeah,
I haven't had one in a
Ooh.
while.
Me neither until I said it.
Now I kinda
oh,
want
Go
so
get
good.
some.
With just the cheap ass nachos and the cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Mama
nice.
Mama.
Oh, I love a Bahama Mama. Both varieties.
And you can put the cheese on it, you know?
Yeah.
They'll let you do that.
And even that chili, I like that chili. I know a lot of people
Oh,
hate
I've
it.
know.
never tried it.
Yeah.
I like the chili.
too.
You've had the chili there too? No.
Yeah, when I was younger, there was a 7-Eleven just across the street when I used to do Taekwondo. and so we would just I would just cross over to get dinner. That was my dinner, the nachos.
The nacho cheese.
I missed having those kind of dinners when you were young, right?
It was like
so
a whole
nice.
event.
Yeah, you can have it late, and now it's like, dude, you eat that late. It's like,
You're not going to sleep for 5 hours because you have gas, like the
Yeah, it's
acid
horrible.
reflux.
I hate it. That's what I miss about being young the most, honestly.
Yeah.
Just being able to eat so much. Like, you take it for granted, you know? Like, I would never put a cap on, like, my children's, like, food consumption.
Yeah. What is it, GERD? Gastroesophageal reflux disease. Acid reflux, guys. Yeah.
Thank you. For the books I don't know, thank you.
Yeah. It's called GERD. GERD.
Okay. Thank you all for sharing as always. Today I wanted to talk about what your all thoughts are about how the world is gonna end. If you all think the world's gonna end at one point. So let me explain more. Okay. So you know how there's been like, and when was it? I think 2000 something the world's gonna end.
2012.
2012. So events like that, like what do you all believe will be the end result, or what event would happen that would cause the earth to end?
Can I say one that I want to happen?
One that you want to happen?
Yeah, but maybe it's not the way that it'll go. I mean, it might be, but I just want an asteroid to just hit the earth.
An asteroid? Okay.
Yeah, I think that would just be like, to see that, you know?
To completely wipe out everything.
Wouldn't that be cool? Everybody witnesses this asteroid, and you're just you just like evaporate. Probably feels so cool. But you're like evaporating, you're like, holy cool!
Yeah,
And
maybe.
then all of a sudden it just goes black.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because 65 million years ago, according to internet, there was the Chukulup event. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with that event, but that was an asteroid that was like 10 to 15 kilometers that hit what is now Mexico, and it killed around 70% of all species, including dinosaurs.
That's where they suspect that dinosaurs left. And this is, allegedly this is what put the Earth into the Ice Age, is what they say. And then so for the wherever you land on global warming, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, of course the world is going to have global warming if we're coming out of an ice age, right? Because if the average temperature was freezing, we're starting to warm up.
If you want to cool it down, let's get another asteroid up in here.
Come on. Get a couple high BMI people in the sky. But
it's just cool when you see, like, on the news, like, oh, remember there was an asteroid that hit Utah?
Oh,
like
yeah,
that little tiny one, and they're like, oh, it could be worth, like, I think they had to put like a couple $100,000 for whoever found it.
Yeah.
For research.
Yeah.
And have you ever picked up one of those, like a rock that's like that? Like when they're like really dense?
They're crazy heavy, even though they're small.
They'll be like this heavy, and they'll be like 20 pounds or something like that. And you just like, it's just like crazy how it works. Yeah.
Where did you all go to pick up a rock like that? Or did you all just see that?
When I grew up, like the neighbors always had like, you had one neighbor that always had like meteors in the apartments.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what you did too in the apartments? Yeah, you had like one neighbor, he would pull out his like rock collection, and he would have this black one. It's like, oh, this one came from you know, this is a piece of an asteroid or whatever. You want to pick it up? And it was like actually like really heavy. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah, they'd have quartz, they'd have geodes, all those weird things.
Going back to why do you want that to be? Why do you want that to happen?
If we could all die together, right?
That'd
be kind of
that's a unifying event to some extent, you would imagine.
Because maybe let's say then there's like, maybe like they're like, okay, it's 2025, and in 1 year the whole world's gonna end. Maybe everybody's like, okay, let's kind of have a good last year, you know? And then maybe everybody's fun. You get to travel everywhere for free, maybe.
You want people to know, like, this is the day and
time.
time.
I'm just saying that's like one of the scenarios, right? It's like, let's say that happens, like, if you know that everybody's gonna die, that would maybe be kind of cool. Like you're saying, a unifying event. If not, it's just like, it would just be crazy to just like, you hear something just explode and then
goodbye.
Like, yeah, like that would be crazy. Because I've always wondered like what it would feel like for the people that like died with a bomb. Like, if you think about it, that's so crazy how just like force just like moving and its heat just like
it's kinetic energy.
Yeah, like that kills you, right?
Yeah,
it's like energy that's just killing you, and just like you get evaporated basically. Like just to think of that, it's crazy that somebody can drop something and you just hear like you might not even hear the boom because you might already be dead before it booms. You know, you just, like,
Yeah, the sound will travel slower than the impact, like the force itself.
so that would be crazy. You know.
Yeah.
Or a volcano, huh? That would be
Multiple
scary, too.
volcanoes all at once.
Yeah, I think the world would deteriorate slowly if there wasn't like a massive calamity like that. So I think it would be kind of a slow, drawn out process.
And that's
And that would be, I mean, miserable, I guess, for the human race. I would think that there'd be obviously people that would apply themselves and try to do everything possible to reverse whatever effect is causing the slow death.
Yeah.
Because the human spirit is pretty resilient in that regard. There might be a general population that gives up, but there's a small population that refuses to. And like, oh, I'm not going to go out giving up. I'm going to go out seeing if there's any, regardless of the possibility, we'll try it. So I think it'll be, I don't know, once the world, which is a weird concept, being depleted of resources. Because if it's all within the same atmosphere, you would think that you'd be able to recycle and withdraw that exact same resource from whatever materials there were. But there's chemical changes in compounds, so it can't revert back to what it normally was once. That's getting too deep into science, I guess. But it's weird to think that, I guess, the resource could. I don't think we're even close to exhausting resources, like some people claim. I think that would be ridiculous to think that we're exhausting resources.
And even if we are, it's just resources. We're not using maybe all the resources we can.
Correctly,
you know?
Yeah.
So it's like then doing that, it's like, okay, now they invent something else that we can use that's just as good. You know, it's like the whole thing with like hemp, you know, like...
Yeah, how they stopped that production because the paper companies wanted to use paper, but hemp is... Which is true, I have a pair of camping pants that are hemp, and I do everything in those for like when I used to go doing activities outside in the summer, I'd brush up against rocks, and they're the most durable pants I've ever had. They were expensive, but they were worth
destroy
it.
Like the earth and stuff like that. Like it'll actually fertilize it and stuff like that. Like the plants, when you cut it down, you can use it as compost.
Minimal water to grow it. Like it grows
Hemps?
incredibly fast. Hemp.
Hemp.
H-E-M-P. It's associated with the cannabis plant because it is the plant.
Oh, okay.
Like you've seen those, even the lotions that they have that's called hemps, like that. So they make so many products from it. But I can't remember where I saw, but they were saying now that everything's like set up to do like synthetic fabrics and cotton and stuff like that. Like all the factories and everywhere is like industrialized to do like cotton products, like everything that we've already used. That it would cost too much money to switch the whole world
back to it.
To hemp, and that's what they just keep using. Like what we're already set up the whole world for. But that's like one of the examples, you know. It's like if maybe there's so many other resources that we don't use. Like if we ran out of oil.
Yeah, but that theory only applies if they wanted to switch it all at once. You would just reintroduce it and gradually start pushing it away.
Yeah, but I guess too would it be like hard to get it started because then the product too for like let's say your first factory you probably have to charge so much.
Of course, but I mean you'd have a population that would just like anything like cell phones were very unattainable by the general population, and they are expensive retrospectively thinking, but the general population has cell phones because they're now mass produced. So it starts off being unattainable for most people, but as more supply and demand like kind of grow together. So yeah, it would take a couple decades. Of course it would collapse if we all switched immediately. And that's the concept with the whole electric vehicle grid, which is unsustainable in other facets too. But I won't talk about that unless that's part of the discussion. I'll let you determine that.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a good way to die, right? The electricity goes down. They say that would, in the U.S., they always say that like that.
It would cripple most everybody.
But yeah, and they say that in the U.S. we have like the least like protection for like cyber attacks and stuff like that to attack the power grid. That we have like one of the worst in like all of the, what is it, like the main countries, or what is it called?
All of the first world countries, developed countries, yeah.
So that we have like one of the worst security things for that. Like if you remember a while ago I think it was like in Atlanta, it was around COVID that somebody hacked their pumps for gas, so they couldn't even get like gasoline. I thought they would maybe just have like a wheel like they do in the movies to open like a shut off, but no, everything was like electronic, so then they couldn't do anything. You know, but if you think about it, like when COVID happened, like we still had like quite a bit of resources, but people were already going crazy.
Yeah. Toilet paper.
Like with toilet paper, just like with so many things, like water bottles. Like,
even bleach.
Yeah. Like Lysol wipes, like everything, people were going like so crazy. Like if you imagine there was actually like a shortage, but that manufacturers couldn't keep making stuff, that would be scary.
Yeah.
Because there's like no hope. Like, oh yeah, like there's no power anymore. Like, what are you guys gonna do?
It's true.
That would be so scary.
What about like if there's insects?
Insects?
That start just eating away living things.
Like a pestilence. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's happened historically, literally on Earth before. In Australia, I want to say this was. I want to say I was a teenager, or maybe. Yeah, or maybe preteen, but they had like this crazy rodent infestation of mice, and it makes me sick because I actually don't like rodents. I have not a phobia, like I'm not afraid of them, but they make me sick. The people would open up their barn doors, and thousands of mice would just fall. Like you just see this crazy swarm. It was disgusting, and I hated it. But it's happened before. There was that's why we have the state bird as a seagull in Utah.
Yep.
Was because of all the locusts, the grasshoppers that were eating all the crops. And then the seagulls came and ate all the grasshoppers for it to go away. And that's kind of the idea that a lot of people have, like hunters or natural environmentalists talk about the balance of the ecosystem and why. I mean, because people complain about how humans' infrastructure and the grid, that we tear trees down and all of that, but nature will always find a way to overcome it and adapt to it. It's almost, what was the wolves population was almost extinct. It was very endangered, and I think they're flourishing now because they were so protected. And now they're saying maybe there might be too many wolves at some point because they're killing now off way too many deer and all of those other animals that they thrive on. So it's always ebbs and flows in nature, and humans I think are in that kind of boat too, where you kind of see the better nature of people, and then war breaks out just because a couple people decide to make it war.
Okay.
To me, the scariest would probably I think volcanoes would be scary, but like earthquakes, like man, I think those are the scariest. You know, like
there's nothing you can do.
And then you see like the earth just like fractured. You know, you get like just holes and stuff. Like, that would be so scary for me. Like,
yeah, that would be.
I couldn't do that. You know, because then that's like houses are falling down. Like you can't even drive. Like a lot of these catastrophe things, you're like, oh, at least I can drive. You know, but an earthquake, if there's like,
yeah, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think of the radius of an earthquake, because if you think about when 2020, it was in Magna, right? The epicenter, like exactly where the center of it. And to think of how many miles, because it would take me, where I live currently, 20 plus minutes to drive to Magna. So if you think of how fast you can go and how far the distance is in a car, but that's where it was, and I still felt it 20 minutes away in a car drive. Or 20-minute car drive away, I still felt the whole house shake and things like fell off the walls. So to think of like the the radius of an earthquake is crazy.
Yeah, another one that's kind of weird, but it's not like, I guess like nature. It's like, you know how, were we talking about this, or maybe I don't know where I watched it, but it's like humans, they have like a certain amount of microplastics, like that they were dissecting people. And we have like a bunch of plastic like in our body, just from being around so much plastic. Like, so they don't know like the effects of like what that's gonna have on humans and stuff like that. Like they dissected like even guys, and it had like, I can't remember what percentage of even their testicles were just like plastic, of microplastics. Or just, so some of that stuff is like kind of scary, you know, because like a lot of them we can't even see, but we're like sniffing plastic. It's like just in us, you know. That's
plastic was one of the. I actually argue plastics is the most important invention of the modern era, or maybe ever in human history, because it created the ability to make molds of anything. Yeah. So without plastic, you don't get vehicles, you don't get cell phones, you don't get any of the modern technology we have at all. You don't get unless we discover plastics, and it's the thing that is kind of destroying that can destroy us if we're not careful with it, which is ironic.
But now we've made so much, like,
it's
even though
unavoidable.
With that going on, is like we're making even more and more plastic, right?
Yeah.
So now it's like everything that, like, to his point, is like technology gets cheaper. Like it's just like it gets more of like plastic. Like even phones now, like a lot of the backs are not like metal. Now they're starting to have like a nice like clean plastic, like weird fill.
Yep.
You know, so cars, right?
Cars are more made out of plastic now.
Yeah. All the inside has so many plastic components. So
yep.
I don't know. That would be creepy. And another creepy thing too that I think would be like some sort of like solar flares.
What are
like a solar storm, or there's like, what is like plasma or whatever? What would it be, like gas? Just like it's like an explosion of the sun.
Okay.
And it just sends like the heat, like it just sends it like straight to Earth, and it can like degrade the atmosphere and stuff like that. So it can start like wearing it and stuff like that, and that's what ends up basically. It's like, would it be Mars? They don't have an atmosphere, right?
Correct.
Or Venus or one of those places closer to the sun, or like the sun's just like basically cooking it. Because it starts to get rid of like the ozone layer and stuff like that. That's why they were banning like the aerosol and stuff like that, because it was making holes and stuff like that. So the UV, the ultraviolet rays go into the Earth. More on those like the strongest rays basically that we get, and they're getting filtered. But when there was that, you know, you could see the northern lights. What was it, like 3 weeks ago?
I want to say it was longer. It could have been 3 weeks ago.
Remember, but supposedly you could even see them here in Utah. It's because we were in the middle of a solar storm. Like it was a really big one. There was like a lot of activity with solar storms in the sun, so you could even see it down here when usually it's like closer, like in Canada and stuff like that, where you have those storms like the northern lights. Because it's, what would it be? I mean, I don't know the science too much, I guess.
I haven't researched it, but
yeah, that's why you see like the northern lights over there. I guess it's if it's closer to the atmosphere or whatever it is, but that's what we could see. And there was more like sun activity, so I think that would be, to get cooked by the sun, that would be scary. Because it's already hot.
Yeah.
Like, what was it last year? It was like 100-some degrees up until like September or something like that.
yeah, it was extremely hot for a long amount of time. Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's like we're used to like AC and stuff like that, but like another thing is like the power grid or something. And solar storms, they can mess up like all of that, satellites, like things like that. So those are things that the sun, like, it can basically affect everything else too. If there's like a giant like solar storm.
Yeah, but that's where I think like the human race is adaptable if we want to be, and if you have like the mental fortitude. Because you've been camping before, right? Or no? You've never been camping? Okay. But I mean, we've been to spots before where it gets over 100 degrees and you have no AC. You're just outside all day. And yeah, your cheeks get rosy if you don't cover up or take appropriate precautions. But in that moment, like, you can say, oh, it's hot, but you still it doesn't matter. You just make it work. Does that make sense?
That also depends on who you are, right? Like, if you're, like, less fortunate, if you're, like, in a country, like, if they're, like, a poor country and stuff like that, they don't have water, access to water and stuff like that.
No, agreed. I'm just saying, like, if you prepare, I use camping as the example because we're so comfortable here, right? You can go home, crank on the AC, and as long as the grid doesn't shut down, and it happens, but people start freaking out, oh, it's so hot, right? But as a recreational activity, we go live in lesser standards, and we kind of enjoy it and make it work. So if you kind of switch your mindset when it happens, and I don't know, all I'm saying is
it'll be fun.
All I'm saying is stop using your AC. Test your metal. But
what would be hard is running out of water.
That's water is the most important resource for various reasons.
The craziest.
Yeah.
Imagine no Coca-Cola either.
That's part of water, yeah. Imagine that.
You have to go, like, on the Book of Eli, remember?
Yeah.
You guys ever watch that movie?
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's with Denzel Washington. He's blind.
It's post-apocalyptic, actually, funny enough.
It is.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. And I think the world's, was the solar flare is what caused it? Or was it a bomb?
Like yeah, it might have been a bomb.
Yeah, because that's how he went blind, was he looked at it. Okay. But either way, you can explain it. You were the one that brought it up.
No, but it's just like, the guy basically, they're like building a town, and like the town's like thriving because they're like the only town that has water. So they have like a water hole. So this guy holds all the power, and people are trading stuff just to be able to get like a little thing of water. And even just like, I don't know, they just paint the picture so good of just like somebody taking just like a sponge and just like a wet wipe to their face, and they're just like, oh, this feels so good, because they haven't felt that forever because there's no water. They only can drink it, and it's like everything's rationed. Like, I think to be in that feeling where you just can't even, being hungry sucks, but being thirsty is just like worse.
It's demoralizing.
Yeah, you're just like, oh man, like, because you can at least get full if you drink a lot of water.
That's true.
Yeah, you survive longer on water than you can food, because your body would just break itself down for the nutrients, but you need the hydration. You don't have enough in your body to hydrate yourself.
Scary.
Have you all seen the Planet of the Apes, the new one?
No, I want to though, because I love the Not the original first ones. I've never seen those.
That's the only
but
one I ever watched.
But the ones with Caesar, that like in mid 2010s.
Yeah.
Those are good movies.
Okay, so do you all feel like they will ever be like that switch of like, or not switch, but like animals versus humans? I know it probably already is, right? That's how it probably started. If it was, what animal do y'all feel like we would compete against for the hierarchy?
Are you're talking about like sentient, where they're smart enough to compete with us?
Correct. Yeah.
That's what it would be.
I mean, they're the closest ones. It would be the
Yeah.
primates. But if it's not the primates, I'm trying to think of any other species.
Okay, I got it. It would be a parasite.
Parasite?
I mean, that kind of works with viruses. It works with AIDS.
Because a parasite could just kill you. Like, you see some of the parasites that they're like zombie parasites, where they just like, you're their host, you know, like a praying mantis. You've seen some of those videos, and then you see like once they're done eating basically the what did I just call it? I just literally
Praying mantis.
No, but what would the
parasite?
The host.
The host.
So the host, like we would be the host, right? And then there's something that's controlling like what we eat, what we're doing. Like we're just living for this like worm that's inside of our body, and it just like we die and it just like pops out and leaves. Like that would be pretty scary. That's what some people say. Like that's what would happen with a zombie apocalypse and stuff like that. Would be like one of those parasites that affects like insects. If there was something like that couldn't affect humans,
Yeah.
like that would be pretty crazy. So I would say maybe even something like that, you know, like a parasite. Because a lot of those things you think about, like they're so tiny, you don't even think about them, right? You're thinking of like, oh, chimps or stuff like that.
Something you can see generally from a distance.
Yeah, but you think of like something like
small.
that. A bacteria, because technically, you know, we all came from bacteria. So if there's like a bacteria that could do that, then that's pretty
Yeah, the primates are the most equipped. Mostly because of the thumbs. They can build stuff. No other animal would be able to build anything. Like, that's why humans are so resourceful, because we can build stuff. We
You
made
just have
weapons.
to get them iPads.
Yeah.
For the apes, just drop them over there.
For sure.
Get them on some technology.
Introduce them to social media.
Oh no.
Make them
Get
useless.
them
you know.
influenced.
Get them on some adult content site, and they'll never leave their house or their tree, wherever it is they live.
What about extraterrestrial folks? Do you think we would ever be like in I guess in war with them?
Like if they enslaved us?
Yeah. Can I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, slave is a pretty hard word.
You think I can go first, Ziti?
It's a hard word? Like hard, like it's dope?
No.
Extraterrestrial.
Yo, that's
yeah.
hard.
I've always loved that word, but I also love E.T. It's my favorite movie of all time. So I'm obsessed with the word extraterrestrial. This is my opinion, so obviously
Also matter.
I think, as far as extraterrestrials, I believe in extraterrestrials. I feel they don't mess with us because they're so advanced and they're to a point they pity us. Because we're involved in whatever it is we have, right? That we're so beneath them as far as an advanced civilization that they just view us and they kind of study us almost like how we would study an ant colony. That we're so beneath them on intellect, we're beneath them. We're inferior to them in virtually any physical capacity or physiological science, that they just view us as a sad story, right? Like, think of how you look at dogs on the APSCA commercials. That's how they view us in their whatever scope of reality.
And
So I don't think they would ever go to war with us because they know they would just obliterate us. And maybe small part of them, if they advanced as far as they did, they should have the history of what happened to them, and hopefully their culture would kind of, okay, we need to preserve life. So they would hate the idea that we could even just destroy ourselves that quickly. I think that's maybe when they would intervene if they wanted to, or they would, or maybe they even are narcissistic and view themselves as gods. And like, well, if they destroy themselves, they'll destroy themselves. Then we can just take over the earth and resource it ourselves.
Put a little futon over here.
Yeah.
Get
Get yourself a floor lamp. But yeah, that's what I view. That's my view on extraterrestrials.
Somebody, well, they said, because, you know, sometimes he says that, and you're like, well, why wouldn't they want to enslave us or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, but when was it? Just a couple days ago, I did not know this, but Genghis Khan, he went to like, because he was like taking it over everywhere, you know? But he saw like white people as just like how he described that.
The Europeans.
Yeah, like he saw them as that. They're like, oh, these guys are just like nasty. They're they're like dirty people. They're basically like apes. Like they don't even have good clothes. Like they're just like a mess. So like he saw them like so beneath them that they weren't even worth like anything.
That's why Europeans weren't conquered by the Mongolian Empire, because Genghis Khan, to his point, viewed them as animals. He's like, oh, you guys are so dumb. Like, it means nothing to take over you.
Yeah.
So that's why he took the Ottoman Empire to the Middle East.
Yeah. So and that's a person. So that's not even an alien. So like a person that was that powerful, literally thought that of another human. Of like, oh, these guys are so like beneath me. Like, I'll just I don't even want to waste my time, you know?
Yeah.
So that's like to your point. I think that's why I could see that too, like where aliens are. Like,
Yeah, that's how I've always viewed that. I was like, they're so advanced. Why would they bother with us?
Yeah.
It's like you don't really. There are some people that will just kill an insect to kill it, but you don't kill one unless you feel you're immediately threatened by it, right? Like a black widow one bite could literally kill you. So most people would probably kill it at that point, right? Because the immediate threat is there. But if you see some sort of the potato bugs, right? You know, the ones that roll up, the roly-poly ones.
Yeah.
You're not going to just go out of your way unless you're one of those people that want to step on it. You would just see it and move on.
Yeah. It's one of those things that even, what's weird is that some even animals that you know that are harmless, like you're so careful with.
Yeah. Ladybugs.
Yeah.
I'll hold them and let them
Now you have to
fly.
ask them for consent.
Yeah.
Can I hold
What do you identify as?
Watch the roly-poly be the parasite.
The new one?
Yeah. I don't know if I've said this before. I think I've talked about it with you, but you know the movie Mulan, right? Yes. So this is a really important part. So speaking of women and power and stuff like that, right? Because I know you're about women empowerment, and rightfully so. This is one fascinating thing. The more I read about history books, the older I got. So Mulan is like one of the best Disney movies, objectively speaking. I don't even think that's an opinion. It's just like one of the best. You know the part where she pulls her hair back and he goes, "The soldier from the mountain." So notice that the Chinese army cared that she was a woman, but he didn't care. I want to call him Shang Tsung. I know his name is not Shang Tsung. That's Mortal Kombat. What's his name again?
Shang.
Shang?
Shang.
Okay.
I believe
I don't know.
Shang.
I can't remember. He's from the Hun army, okay? So he was a depiction of the Mongolian army.
Hung army. Sorry.
Hun. No,
Hung?
not Hung. Hun. Okay?
Oh
He was from the Hun army. And the Hun is a representative of the Mongolian Empire. So that leader is a Genghis Khan portrayal. Not accurately, but he represents the Mongolian Empire. And that's what the more I read about history books, right? The Chinese, even to modern era, the child carries the name of the family, and you know the whole adoption thing, because the highest orphans is Chinese girls, because they make more money off the boys, so they had the boys. That's changed recently, but that is neither here nor there. The important part of that in the movie is Disney recognized the differences between the two cultures, because Genghis Khan actually had women as generals in his army. And the only army in that recorded history that had female generals. And when you're a general, it doesn't matter if you're female or male. It's just you're the general. So I know it's a small little thing, but I think that was really cool that Disney incorporated that into the storyline. And if you didn't know, it means nothing to you, because the idea, if he were Chinese, you're like, oh, I got defeated by a woman. He didn't think that. He's just like, you stopped me from being able to take over. I don't care that you're a woman. You're just the person who stopped me. And it's because they're used to having female generals.
Oh, you're talking about the enemy.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's not Shane.
Okay.
Shane is the other guy. My bad.
Okay,
You're the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all perspective.
The one that wanted to get down to business.
Side you were on.
Yeah. Donny Osmond. It wasn't Donny Osmond. It was
So what about though the world ends because we are all too dependent on technology and we're becoming more and more worthless without technology, and maybe our kids.
I wouldn't say worthless. Let's say we have less self-value.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, you were talking about camping and how easy it would be to camp,
sure. Yeah.
But it's like we're removing ourselves more and more from the environment than we ever were as a species in an animal sense. Right? So now we're so, like, immersed with technology and stuff like that we don't even know how to fix basically almost anything. And I talked with Jose about this, like, all the time. It's like our parents, like, they can fix anything. Our parents can also fix anything. And then for us, we know some tools and how to kind of get by.
I know who to call.
Yes. But then there's some people that they're like after us, and they're like they don't even know like they don't even own like a screwdriver or anything like that. It's like just the thought of them like problem solving something that's not like electric or with a screen. It's like impossible. So I think if that happens, right, if like there's like more and more humanity keeps merging more with like so dependent on technology and electricity, I guess, then when something does happen, then we're just all useless, or maybe we start morphing into weaker people and stuff like that. Then that would be kind of crazy, you know.
So you think we're already past that generation of like, because when internet started being bigger or YouTube, like how to YouTube stuff, like that was easy access to us doing the hands-on work instead of like taking the car somewhere to a mechanic, right? So y'all feel like we're past that generation then, that now internet is just like we have access to it easily now that we don't bother to do hands-on work like that anymore.
But then also, what kind of hands-on work can we do too? Does that make sense? Like before, there were so many things that were more mechanical, that had more components that you could also fix. Now everything's, to his point, it's
Electronic.
well, even electronic, but there's so many things that we replace with like plastic, or we have so many better designs that are so simple. You know, compared to like the TV now, compared to an older TV, and how it has like so many parts and all these like fuses and everything like that. Now you see TV and it's like this thick, you know. So there's like maybe less mechanical things for us to fix, like even on cars, right? Now cars, it's like more and more a fuse goes bad. You know, that's what happened to my car. You know, but just like the little things like that go by, opposed to like before it's like, okay, you got to fix like your engine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Everything else is like a perk. You know, everything else that you have that was electric was like a perk. And now it's like the opposite. Now people can't fix electric stuff. And that's where they'll be like, oh, well, that's going to be $3,000. And you can fry your whole car if you mess up, right?
Yeah, we don't have the tools for some of those things, to his point, where if it's back then, 30 years ago, it was all more physical stuff that you can manipulate yourself. But now the complexity of something requires the intervention of incredibly expensive tools or resources, right? Like computers to run certain diagnostics and things that you can't just look at and fix. Where back then, if you had the belt, you could just say, oh, the belt snapped. I just need to replace the belt and put that in on an old car. Now it starts generating force with the motor again. So I would say, to answer your question about there's less and less, as a general population, yes, but I think that there's a bigger divide now because, but now you can't be specialized in everything. You probably specialize in one thing because of the complexity of everything else, right?
Yeah.
Where a mechanic now has to have, I imagine, the same knowledge that a mechanic had to 50 years ago, plus more, because now there's the electrical component. How do I fix that? So they're more specialized and they have a wider set of tools. Yeah. But the mechanic 50 years ago could also be a plumber with great efficiency, could also be maybe an electrical wiring somewhat expert, because a lot of the other extra complexities weren't in there back then. So they were able to do more because there was less knowledge needed. Does that make sense? It was wasn't siloed because you just had to know more about it, and it was more simple. Now it's more complex in each respective category or field.
Also, we don't know like all the effects of like not being as active as we used to before, you know?
Yeah, true.
Like we don't know that because that's only like our grandparents, like they were walking for everything, they were moving for everything, like up until maybe like our, I don't know, our parents when they turned maybe what, like maybe 40, right?
Probably give or take.
That's when there was like everybody started, like everybody has a car now and stuff like that. Like, that's when everybody. So now we're like kind of like the first generation where it's like, oh, like you can be 18 and like you have a car, or 16, right? And everybody's like driving. I don't know. So I think we're also the first generation that we don't know like what all these new effects of technology are going to have on us, and just like our biological self, you know, like if they're going to mess with us like later, or our kids and stuff like that. I don't know. That's kind of weird. Sometimes I see like they'll put the pictures of like this is what humans are gonna look like in 40 years. And they're gonna have like giant eyes, you know. Yeah, because now we have so much light all the time, and we're like used to like having like phones and stuff like on our face. Like our vision's not going to be that good. Like we're already can see less than what our ancestors could like at dark at night. You know, like we can't even see. And then they said that we're gonna also start. Your thumb's gonna turn kind of like into a claw. Like it's gonna start. Yeah, because you're always like on your phone. So since that's like your phone,
I disagree with that one. I've heard it, but I disagree. Yeah, because still as a human, we utilize the thumb way more than just sitting there as a claw.
A little bit longer or something.
It might, that's what. And then your eyes are supposed to be more narrow because you don't need to look far anymore. Everything's just right in your face.
So, apes are gonna take over pretty much. Got it.
And they're far stronger than we are by an incredible amount.
Guns. Okay? Yeah. Well, we might not.
In the U.S., we have the Second Amendment. Every other country, sorry, but you think a gorilla's gonna run up on my house? Absolutely not.
Warfare.
Yeah. What if for electronic stuff, right? Let's say they invent these awesome robots, and we get now robots who can do stuff for us. We won't have to worry about electronical stuff. We just have to worry about funding our robot, right?
Yeah, but there'd be people specialized in knowing about the robot. So that goes back to my comment of there is more stuff now that you have to know in general. So back then people were more of a jack of all trades, but it was a simple jack of all trades, where now if you specialize in one thing, you're far more equipped in that specific area than everything else. But these are specialized roles. I'm not talking about like someone who has a really good hobby at doing something, and maybe they're smart enough, but I'm talking about people like a professional who has decades of experience in one thing. They're just that much. They would have done well back then too. That's my opinion, anyways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
What other fun ways have you thought about?
Other ways?
Yeah.
We're still talking about the end of the world.
And
no.
Yeah, I'm sorry, kind of went sideways.
No, you're good.
So I also thought about the meteors. I think that one. I feel it's more realistic just because it has happened before. Or the species. What did we call them? Parasites. Yeah, or a virus.
Yeah.
I think those two to me have come closest. I'm more interested about the alien or extraterrestrials, like that. I think I need to look more into. Like I have.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe in it or not. I don't know.
But it's just like, okay, if they come visit us, they want to take us or whatever, like how much, if their technology is so advanced, is like they're not going to have to like dissect every single one of us or torture us, right? Like they can just probably do it with a couple humans. Right? It's like, oh, this is how they're made out of these or their differences. That's it, right? And then if they made us their slaves, like, I mean, what are you going to do? You can just revolt. I would just either kill myself or try to get them to attack the aliens, and then you're going to be finished anyways. The question that I have for you guys is, with all this technology and stuff like that, how long, if there was a meter on not dying, how long would you live? If they could change that, like
the length of life.
Yeah, like because now you have Neuralink. They're starting to say, they're gonna have all these things to enhance life. Like at what point? Because you can still die of natural causes, but it's like if they're like you can live forever, would you live forever?
No, I would not. I think I'd get bored.
You just say unplug me.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just like, why? Let's move on.
I think I would do a to-do list once I'm done with my to-do list.
Yeah.
And after I see kids, if they decide to have kids at all.
Sure.
And then I'm good.
You threaten them, don't piss me off. I'm going to shut down.
Yeah, I wouldn't very long. I mean,
isn't that weird? I think most people wouldn't for the most part.
Yeah, and a level of it has to be, like, think of those who lived in World War II era, which there's some of them are still alive, right?
Yeah.
They're dying off now. They've seen so much change that the world is not what they once knew, and that's got to be... I'm not going to say they obviously still live in it, but what they see is so drastically different that it makes them either maybe not enjoy it or they miss the good old days. As people think nostalgia is such a powerful tool.
You have less to relate to.
Yeah, you just like, I'm not meant for this environment anymore, so I'm done.
Yeah, and it's not adaptable, I feel, sometimes.
No, there's a point where you're done. Like, physiologically speaking, you can't keep up. Mentally speaking, you can't keep up. And in the event maybe you could, to our point, is you could adapt, but it's not the same. And you're going to probably, the early memories of your life are the most impactful and the most...
Somebody's always going to be the youngest.
Yeah.
I always find that the hardest about getting old is because it's like cool to live, right? Like, okay, you can live, but then it's like the older that you get, like my grandma, she passed away, she was 97, but like to Jose's point, it's like she was probably like, she didn't even have any friends that she grew up with by that point. So like to his point, like, to have a conversation about like what they did back in the day, like she probably couldn't talk to anybody about when she was like a teenager, like all of that, those chapters in her life, they were already dead. You know, so I think that would suck like quite a bit because like there's like a lot of people they can't relate to you at all. You know, like none of your memories and stuff like that. And it's like the longer that you live, I don't know. I feel like it's also harder, right? Because they say, "Oh, living's so cool," but it's like you see other people that pass away. You see so many things that change, right? So it's almost to what you're saying. It's like then the world maybe changes so much. They're like, "Oh, I don't really."
Yeah, or
like, you don't fit in it in a way. You know, it's like it's already.
Or think of this someone who again lived through. I mean, there's even more recent wars, but World War II is the biggest global scale warfare we've ever seen. It took more lives than any other event in the world of modern history. So think of being, if you're cognizant enough, 90-plus-year-old person seeing World War II and like, oh, now again humanity faces a possible world war. That's got to be demoralizing, right? Because they lived through the worst war that we've seen in modern history. Or even people that had lived through like the Vietnam War. Just if you're old enough, oh, this again, cool. I'm done with this. I've lived my human experience. Time for me to move on from this. That's how I would view it that way.
What if we were all given an opportunity to live a different life, to be like reborn to a new host?
Oh, look at us being parasites, right?
Reincarnation.
Yeah, and you can decide what age.
And you have a memory of your previous life as well? That would be rough.
Okay. Yeah, because
you can decide.
Because we had one like this that it was like if we could live. Remember, we all picked I think like America in the 19.
Like early, no later than 50s, but
or we picked that?
yeah.
But let's say we can't pick that, and we had to pick like a different race or something like that.
I mean, it would be the current
era,
but you would be in a different or younger body, but you can decide.
Okay, so I could be right now. It could be like 10, if you're saying. Man, you know, I think for us, to me, honestly, I think we have the perfect age almost.
We've discussed this actually quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like our era, you're roughly our age as well, but we saw not just saw them, but we lived through the epitome changes of technology speed. Like I remember 8-tracks, I remember cassette tapes and players transitioning to CDs, and then the CDs are crazy that you can burn them, right? Copy other music onto it. It would take several minutes. It was an entire experience. And then we moved on from CDs and DVDs to MP3 formats, where it's now just digital. It's not even, you have a physical thing that holds the memory into it, but now we can access as much information as you could ever want through a phone. We lived through all of those in an era of our life where we were able to adapt to it pretty quickly, but still remember the old stuff. Like I still remember how to wind tapes from cassette players when the tape would come out, and get all windy or whatever. Remember fixing CDs if they were scratched, where they sold a specific solution that you could restore it.
And clean your lacer on your,
Yep.
on your box or whatever.
And you had to use an alcohol Q-tip, and you couldn't press too hard, otherwise you'd scratch or damage the laser. So back to our point of like seeing all those things where it was more simple and just got more complex, we saw the change. So there's almost, at least for me, an admiration of the older, simpler times with enough technology that we lived super comfortable.
Yeah, we were able to have like the original product to basically evolve into the best form that it's going to be, and now that best form is just getting enhanced. Like it's not getting any better than what we already saw when we were younger.
Yeah.
Right. Like we saw the internet like get good, and now it's just getting better. Right. But it's like the same with TVs. Like we saw them start to get like smaller and stuff like that, and the flat screen, so you could it would be a whole cabinet. But they were big, right? Yeah. So we were able to see all of that, and also see, like Jose saying, like the TVs with the knob that our parents were like watching, or the rotary phone. My grandma had that in Mexico. Just rotary phone. We could still call what is like one of those a phone booth, right?
Yeah, the payphones.
What's one of those?
Right? We can use
I remember
call for
using
an
payphones.
operator.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were able to do that phone cards, like to basically the first phone, like cell phone that was like the blueprint of what everybody's gonna have, right? Same with like laptops, like even the iPad, everything. Like we saw like that like last blossom basically, but where you could still experience it being new for the first time, like what the modern world is like. So I'm not sure when the next wave of that is, you know, like
Maybe even the sense of hope, because like in the 90s and the 2000s, there was still a very positive outlook on life and potential, where it'd be unique. And this is where I like talking to the younger generation. They have a unique their own perspective, right? Where do they feel as defeated about the future as our age group does? Because our age group is pretty bleak about the new future coming in. At least that's my perspective of it. So I wonder if the younger generation feels it, because that opinion is voiced so much on social media, whereas back when we were younger, it was just whoever's in your immediate circle or the news. But at that point, just you're a sum of whoever you hang out with the most, right? I don't know. It just felt hopeful. And I don't know if that's a young age thing or if that was that era. Because I'd imagine most people would always look fondly on their, like, we always think, to me, the epitome of cartoons is our age group. But maybe these new kids, Coco Melon. I wonder if in 20 years, they'll be, Coco Melon was so good. People don't know what's good. You know what I mean? Because our parents'
well, now
age
they're
group.
still making The Simpsons, SpongeBob,
Yeah.
so many things too. That's like they're making remakes of all that stuff.
And that's because our age group has the money to spend it now. So I think that's the target audience versus getting new audiences. So when in 30 years, if Coco Melon was still relevant or big enough, they might make that stuff and those people will buy into it. Like Pokemon is having a resurgence because our age group grew up on Pokemon. Now we have, if we have an expendable income, you're going to go back to it.
Yeah.
Whereas we didn't see that, but that's because it wasn't celebrated. My parents' age group, our parents' age group, grew up on like what's it called, Pink Panther, Tom and Jerry. Looney Tunes was still part of us, but Looney Tunes and Disney's old enough to be part of that generation. But Disney stood the test of time, right? You see old people still collecting Disney things, but Disney was such a massive conglomerate that it was impossible to ignore. So I always think of, because we had the best growing up. But imagine being a kid now. As much as we view from the outside perspective, it can't be as fun. They might find it as fun because they don't know any different, right? This is their childhood.
Yeah, it's just like what sucks. So this is where I would maybe disagree. It's like, yes, it is their childhood, but it's like they don't get to experience like so many new things like we did.
Yeah, but they don't know about that. That's my point. They don't know any better because there's nothing better for them.
Because so I guess it's just like I don't know like what cool things do they get excited about.
So
you know,
the correlation I can make. So sports, right?
Yeah.
That's a live event and it happens at a specific time. You can still record it. You can still go home and watch it. But when we were kids, like a TV show, Power Rangers, whatever, it aired at a specific time on Saturday or whenever.
Yeah.
And if you missed it, you could record it, but that wasn't as popular back then. Your friends were talking about it on the basketball court, on the baseball field. And that's unique because if you were the guy that missed it, everyone would tell you, oh, you missed it. How could you miss it? And it's like that time's era of FOMO. Whereas now, let's Game of Thrones or whatever comes out. It doesn't matter when people are watching it, when it premieres. There are people that always tune in at the very premiere. But most people are like, I can watch it when I get home. Yep.
That's when it's worth the most now.
So it changes pop culture because everyone doesn't know the same thing because there's so much access to anything and everything that every person gets to pick what they like and what they don't like. Example, I enjoy, I'm an extremely casual anime fan, but I really enjoy it. He's not really an anime fan. He and I will never talk about it, which is fine, but I'm trying to think of like American Idol when it was first out when we were kids. Everyone talked about American Idol because that was just the thing everyone watched. Whereas now, no one cares about it. I mean, people do, but majority of people don't even talk about it. So it's interesting to see pop culture now is different segments. It's not the one thing is the biggest. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that's kind of weird for me is that the like social media, you know, because we got also, to me, I think the best part of social media when it's like you hit MySpace and stuff like that, and it was like cool. Like you wouldn't be on it as easy, right? Because you have to be on it from a computer.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna have to go to the library, and like that's like the only time I can send a couple of my friends messages.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna go home and see if I got any messages in my inbox, right? Like, and I'm not sure. You don't seem like you're also like super active on social media, so maybe it's like not a good place to ask the question. Because like now, I don't want to say like, oh, our age is better at not being on social media, because I think we're like really bad at it too, you know.
I am, yes.
Because there's like so many people like that I feel like are our age are like in social media when I don't know. To me, I never got into social media because I was always doing stuff when we were younger.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't really posting stuff or concerned about that stuff because I had so many outdoor things to do that sometimes I feel bad that people are so into social media. I don't know why. I just like, it's weird when you have like so many friends that are like, oh, you don't care, like you're not gonna take a picture. I'm like that's what they're thinking of. It's like, oh, I need to take a picture or a video. Like I did not even think about that at all. You know, and you can just be like more in the moment. So I don't know. I was gonna say like, well, our generation's better at that, but we're also kind of really bad at wanting to show off on social media. You know, but I don't know. I wish if there was like one thing that could have worked out better would probably be that, you know?
Yeah.
I miss... We talk about this sometimes. It's like, now with social media, it's like you're posting stuff like that. And to his point about, like, before, like, if you missed a cartoon or something like that. And this is even our parents, like, you have to tell good stories, right? So you have to pay attention more. You have to be more present in the moment. Because now it's like, oh, I went to this concert, here's a video. I'm like, oh, okay, that looks cool, I guess, right? But before, it's like, you could tell me a full-on story. Oh, I went there, you know, we carpooled. It was 5 of our friends. We were sitting there by the front row. There was 10 other people. And you can even describe the people there. You can describe, like, every single thing. And tell, like, such a cool story that you would make me feel like I was there at the concert. Better than you showing me a video. Like, me seeing, like, a video on social media. It's like, oh, okay, cool, right? But you just see it, and it's like, it's so saturated with that. It's just, like, it is what it is. You know, so I wish there was like maybe more of a change with that. I guess maybe if I could do that to young people, like if there was like some sort of way that they didn't have to feel so pressured to being on social media. I think that would be so fun. And that's almost back to the point of like what we're evolving to, right? It's like we're evolving into like valuing like what the internet thinks instead of like the real world. Like that is pretty crazy, right? We don't know how to talk to, if the world goes to shit, like we don't know how to trade. We don't know how to have social skills with people. We don't know how to compromise, right? Because now it's like, compromise, dude, I just have Amazon. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to compromise with anybody. I don't need to negotiate, really. Like, you're so used to having everything so easily, like, available and being able to dispose of everything. I think you lose a lot of, like, human skills.
Yeah, which I'll tie in with one thing. How do you deal with boredom? Like, do you hate being bored?
Oh, do I hate being bored?
Yeah, like, how do you handle being bored? Oh, because you just said you go to videos, right?
Yeah, I have to do something. I can't... Well, if I'm sitting down, I have to be either on my phone, I have to be watching something, I have to be... I don't read much, but sometimes I read my webtoons, but sure. I have to be doing something. And I don't know if that's because as I got older, I have had more responsibilities that I'm always like on the go. Where before it was listening to music.
Yeah, I say this because boredom is, I'm going to say, the most important thing a human can experience because it makes you, it forces you to have to do something mentally at least. For example, I mean, technology has created an ability for you to arguably never be bored, but isn't that like always constantly a dopamine hit where you're constantly excited about something, where if you have nothing to do and you're just sitting there, you force yourself to do something with, okay, I'm going to draw, or I'm going to do that's where hobbies come into play, right? Because they help stimulate the mind. So in said hobby and art, I've done this before. I'll sit in the art room and I'll just stare at a blank canvas, and I'm frustrated that I can't think of anything because I have artist block or whatever, but I'm also bored, so I have nothing going on. How is my imagination going to flourish and help me come up with something to be able to handle this? Or I remember car plane rides when I was young. A 6-hour flight from New York to Puerto Rico is crazy long for a child, right? I didn't have a phone to watch a video on. I had crayons, I had colored pencil, and like a crossword puzzle, that because I loved crossword puzzles as a kid. But even that would make me bored, so I'd stop and I'd just sit there and I'd think of these crazy stories where my imagination would run wild. And I don't know if this is some point you were making earlier. That is something I think that is very, very different, where if kids are missing out on anything, I'd say somehow sharpening, like, you have to experience boredom a lot.
Yeah. And funny enough, like, and I know he's referring it to it as bored, but I think it's almost to your point, Jose, of like young people now, it just is what it is, right? So for us, it's like, oh, you're bored, but that used to be just a natural human thing that you don't have, you know, something to keep you entertained as much, right? So it's like a normal feeling that we used to have as humans that we don't experience anymore. So I personally, I like to feel bored, and I always try to, because I wouldn't call it bored, I just call it kind of peaceful, you know, because if you don't have anything going on where you can just sit there and like, if you just try to like listen to just what's going on, just like sounds in the house, like creaky things or whatever may sound, and just like the sound of quiet, it's almost like what the opposite of what life is now, you know. So funny enough, like yesterday I went on a walk. I was at the park, and I always like to sit at the same spot, but I never go there. I try to think of nothing when I go to the park, so I just tried to see if I could figure out how to mentally, like Jose was saying, like when you're a kid, 6 hours feels like forever. Like I try to get bored to see if I can slow down time like that, like that feeling of like, oh man, it feels like 6 hours feels like 10 days, right? So I try to go to the park and stuff like that, or even on weekends, like I don't listen to music, I won't listen to anything, like I'll just keep everything quiet, and then either I'll just like cook or something like that. And even like when you're making a sandwich or something, you can just hear like the knife, like it's so quiet, you can hear like go cut something, and just like the sounds of you mincing something, and you get to almost like even feel more like how you cut something with a knife. You can feel like, you know, like you're becoming one with the knife, kind of. But it's like such a cool feeling to be more like tuned in. And I was thinking of that yesterday. It's like, man, I wish I could have that feeling. And it's like boredom, because that's like the easiest way to explain it, but it's not. You know, it's like where time just like slows down, and you're like, so you don't have
a lack of stimulation, I guess, is what I'm referring to with boredom.
You're not stimulated, so you're more aware of your surroundings, right? You can hear the wind again. Like you can look at the clouds and you remember, oh, damn, those things move. So you can see the moves. You can pay attention. Like all of a sudden, you like start relaxing, and you start paying attention to like the trees, like, you know, little leaves like moving and stuff like that. And that's a cool feeling, you know, where you kind of go in there and it's almost like weird. Like you start feeling that it's like, oh wow, the world's actually like kind of like still right now, you know, like back when you were a kid, and that almost kind of freaks me out. But it's like a cool feeling that I think we don't get enough of anymore. Of like, to his point, it's like boredom, to where you have like cool thoughts, and even if it's not cool thoughts, you just get like better appreciation for just like living, you know, or like your environment. Like making a sandwich could be like, oh man, I can't believe, you know, I can make a sandwich whenever I want, or I can make a taco whenever I want, and here I am salting this steak, you know. So I think there's like something cool about that too.
Yeah. So I know that you said you're busy, you're a mom too, so this is difficult to have, I guess, that lack of stimulation, because if you're not worried about you have your kids to worry about. And this is one of those phenomenons with empty nesters, right? When the kids are all grown up, because their life, and rightfully so, revolves so much around their kids. That's when they have epiphanies, and that's when a lot of people pick up different, like art, right? In my art academy class, I have some women who they're like have no kids anymore, and they're like, well, I needed to find something to do, so they found painting, and they're like really good at it, and they're like, oh, I wish I would have discovered this earlier. And it's okay, because they had their kids' life to focus on, right? So can you think of, and I'll give you an example of what I used to do a lot, and I still do now as an adult, and I always have to remind myself to do it. What would you do when you were bored? So my example is, I loved looking, my dad was a carpenter by trade, so he'd make a lot of different things, and you know that wood has like the knots and the different waves, I would kind of see different pictures and images in it. Or if you look up at the roof, how you have this spackle, you would find just like a cloud when you would observe clouds, but in different. That's what I would do when I was bored, and I think that's what lends itself to me drawing and painting. Is my thing was imagery in my head, not just words, literal physical like pictures. So what would you do to pass time? Or if you're not stimulated, what did you end up doing?
Dancing. And coming up with choreography. And because back then I didn't have access to videos, like dance videos, I would just look at the movies like Step Up. Or what was the other one?
I forgot about Step Up.
There was
Step Up has like 20 movies, don't they?
Yeah. Only like the first two is what I saw. There was... What was it? I forgot.
What was the one with
wasn't it the cheerleading one?
That Bring It On?
I liked more like the breakdancing.
What's the one with the
Chris Brown?
The B2K people? Omarion is in it.
Omarion, yeah.
You Got Served.
You Got Served,
okay,
yes. Those ones.
Chris Brown was in it too, I think.
And that's what I would do. Is just try to remember the dance moves that I saw in this one movie. I didn't have access to the movie anymore, but come up with similar choreography. Or like with my parents, because we would go to the parties, like the quinceañeras and stuff. It's like seeing the older ladies dance and me trying to mimic, because I thought they looked really cool and I wanted to join the circle. So I'm like, in order for me to join the circle, I need to learn these dance moves. And so I had my little mirror and my little room with my sisters that I shared with, and that's what I would do. And then I would make them do the choreography too. Yeah,
that's where like the floor is lava idea comes into play. We were talking about fortune tellers the other day. You remember those? That was created from a lack of stimulation. I'm assuming a group of kids, I don't know how it was invented, but I'm assuming it's pretty close to this, were together. They figured out how to fold paper into something where you could stick your fingers in and open it, and it would tell you. I can't do it now. I'm 34 years old. I used to do it as a kid, but I completely forgot how to fold the paper and cut it in the specific spots to make a fully functioning they called them the fortune tellers.
Yeah.
But I believe that was created out of boredom of a child or a group of friends, or like, let's make this. And they probably kept figuring it out until it got to the efficiency of that, which is pretty cool to think about.
Maybe that's how the world ends, that we get so comfortable living in what we have made for a comfortable life that we don't have boredom and stuff like that, or any time to keep making new stuff to get out of this, like wave that we're in of inventions in life. Like maybe we don't have any more people that are bored enough to learn like new things or dream, or that they have nothing going on to where they're like, I'm gonna solve this and that's gonna be my mission for my life, because I have no electricity or whatever. And we just get too complacent into this like nice soft life that we made, but we never start addressing any other issues other than just enjoying. Basically, what's like the word for perezosos? Like we become
lazy bunch,
kind of like sloths. Or
I think that might be the best word.
Sloth. Oh, sorry.
Like perezosos, you know what I mean? Like you just become like lazy, you just complacent, stuff like that, to where you don't care. You're just like, I'm just gonna sit here and not contribute to anything. So you're just gonna be lazy, and everybody's kind of there, so nobody's like. You almost get into the mentality of like, somebody else will take care of it, right? Or like, technology.
Like a leech or a mooch. You're just
technology will figure it out. And you forget that we're the ones, to his point, that made all of that happen. So we just made it to a spot where we can just be comfortable, and we never got out of it to keep enhancing lives, or maybe bettering it more, or using it to better the whole world, not just our comfort, And then we just die from being freaking 600 pounds.
I thought of that too. Not even just like the gaining weight, but imagine not having inspiration in your life. That's pretty depressive, right?
You don't find a purpose.
Yes.
So and you don't even have to live to be 200. You just have a purpose.
So it's like that cliche quote. Some quotes are nice, they're good. People overdo them, but I think it's something to the effect of, it's not about how many breaths in life you take, but the moments that take your breath away in life is like, it's not about the quantity of years, but the quality of the years, right? So, okay, cool. Let's say 125 years, but if you're just going through motions, not really feeling inspired about anything, your quality's pretty garbage. Versus somebody who lived to maybe be 60 and they did a bunch of different cool things. Watch, like exploring the world, creating things, even if they didn't
contributing to something.
Yeah.
Belonging to a purpose.
I think that's why hobbies are very important.
Yeah.
Because like our grandparents or even our parents tell you, oh, you know, in this village, I would have to go get water and do this, or you know, we would have to go get food all over here and then bring it home. Like, so even if it was something small and you were poor or whatever, like you still had a purpose and you could still contribute to something. But if we get so complacent where it's just like, and I think that's happening because there's like you know, people now, there's like more mental health issues and stuff like that it's harder for somebody to feel like they contributed to something. Right now it's like, oh, I have to be rich and I have to be famous and I have to be like, nobody can even just get like nobody can even, like a big majority of people probably don't even feel like they have any value to their community. You know, even to their household.
Yeah.
Right, because like their dad might be making a lot of money, where like them like doing chores, like they might have a maid or whatever, or it's like
they have it made.
Yeah. Minute made. But you know what I mean? It's like that there's like, then people, they just like purpose, and there's like, well, what's the point of this? It becomes like a stagnant earth, and everybody's sad and depressed, and we actually are just turn off the power to the grid ourselves, and we just all die together that way.
Yeah.
Loneliness and sorrow.
Yeah, like a humble brag. Okay, I'm going to assume you enjoy doing this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you enjoy it. Let's say, think of how many people they think to themselves, because they talk themselves out of certain things. Oh, I'm not going to do this because if I can't get money or fame out of it, like they refuse to do it at all, right?
Yep.
That's more crippling than doing it and looking like a failure, right? Because the fear of failing, whatever they view it as, stops more people from success than failure does. So it's like, we don't need, I mean, the three of us, I'm going to imagine, we don't need to know that, oh, we are praised by 1 million people, we're making $100,000 a month, we're not making any money off of this.
I got my partnership.
Yeah, I just enjoy it. Yeah, it's if you define, I guess you define the parameters of what you view as success. So it's kind of ironic to think that people base it off of all these other things, and they withhold themselves from really cool experiences just because they don't want to look like idiots from doing it. And yeah, there's a level of vulnerability for it, for sure. And you might get some hate, especially if you get big enough to where you have enough eyes on you. But at least you did something, and the people that usually hate, those, again, are usually people without hobbies or nothing else to live for. That's what they live for.
Yeah, and it's weird now because there's like social media and stuff like that, like just bringing it back to like a sense of community. Like, even if you're part of a community in social media, right? You're just saying that, but all of your stuff is like separate, right? You're just like, oh, I'm a Latino community, but it's just me posting pictures of myself eating. I'm like, I belong to the, you know, Rice Up Latinos, and it's just me ordering at Starbucks in English, right?
Latinos love rice, you know?
But you know what I mean? So there's like, so even as much of like now they're like, oh, there's a community for everything, right? I'm a Latino community, I'm the gay community, I'm like, now there's so many communities, but like actual communities there's not. Like there's like people, like there's a lot of people that don't have friends and stuff like that. Like all of that keeps getting like higher and higher and higher for like younger people. Like they don't get to experience like a lot of those things where they can even have a friend, even though we're in the most accessible time to meet friends technically and stuff, right? Like yeah, like online, right? But even online, like that community, it's just like in a way you looking cooler than everybody else, right? So even if you're part of whatever community, you're gonna have to look the best of that community, right? So it's like there's really no sense of like, I feel like for a lot of younger people maybe, and I don't know, because they say stats say that, you know, they struggle with a lot of stuff like that they don't feel like they're involved in things like that into society, you know, because they're like us. I mean, that's why now it's like important to do like sports or stuff, you know, or just like how you have your daughter going to do fighting and stuff like that, where they can feel like they get a win that way. Oh, I got my belt, or you know, I got this. Like, where they feel some sense of like, I want to say like old world achievement, but just like a purpose, maybe, you know, opposed to like a video game. I think we've talked about this one. Now you just like hand your kid a tablet, and it's like, hey, the tablet's gonna race you, which is like, it's cool, but it's like, you know, you're not really connected with the the game, right? Like when you have like little friends and stuff like that, like, oh, dude, you did this. It's so cool. Like, they'll remember that forever. So
Yeah, that's true.
it's that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Bad things happen in the bad people.
Yeah. So
Did you get back into Taekwondo, by the way, or no?
No, not right now. My
Are
daughter
you going
did.
to, though? I know your daughter. That's why I asked.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to,
should
but
get
my
back into
body's
it.
not ready.
No?
Mentally, physically, I'm not ready.
Okay.
Once you get in the cage, you'll be a new animal. You know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Ironic that you're gonna fly freest when you're caged like a bird. You know?
Anything else y'all want to add on to how y'all believe will go extinct?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. For me, I feel like we somehow kind of ended up a good way, right? Because it's like you're isolating so many people and stuff like that everybody's like becomes lonely. Nobody has hobbies. Nobody's like depending on each other. Everybody can live on their own and stuff like that. To where it just makes like, I don't know, like it ruins almost life. You know, like the cool, fun parts of it. Like, I don't know. I think maybe that would probably be the saddest way to die. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you watched The Giver, that movie? That movie?
I love the book, by the way. Yeah.
Right, but it's like basically one of those utopian places, right?
The Giver?
Yeah. Have you read it?
No.
Or seen it? It's really cool.
Yeah, but he's like the only one that can see colors and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Well,
it
he
implies
has
there's a
power,
level
doesn't
of
he?
control over the population,
Yeah.
right? So the giver is like the selected person who retains a level of humanity. Yeah. Phenomenal book, honestly. And so the perspective is from the main character as a child who gets mentored by the giver. So the giver knows music. No one else knows music.
And
the giver is the only one like who hears music. And I'm of the belief music is very spiritual, right? Because ironically, music is probably the most influential aspect emotionally and spiritually for a human. Like, it can really move you. Think of a good movie, it probably has excellent music behind it, almost guaranteed. If you love that
Titanic.
movie, Lord of the Rings, just excellent music, really. Yeah. Anyways, so the main character is being mentored by the old giver because the giver is who's teaching him about being that role in society. And then the kid ends up experiencing color, implying that everybody else only sees black and white. So imagine being a human now, knowing what color does, remove it from you. It's almost, sadly, when people know what vision is, like, there's not as much pity on a blind person who was born blind, but more people always think, oh, imagine being able to see and then that being taken away from you. They're on the opposite side. Imagine knowing, I just discovered this thing, but no one else can experience it the way I do. That's what the giver is about.
But they're doing that to create a utopian, basically.
Yeah, everyone's equal. There's no... Yeah,
So
I don't
like,
want to...
if
It's
you
a
don't
good
see
book, though.
all the color and stuff like that, you know, so basically they get rid of... Everybody lives technically happy.
But it's because they know no better. Like we were talking about earlier, our
They're-
kids now don't know certain things that we experience.
Yes, they're getting rid of the experience.
Yeah.
So for people experiencing certain things, you know, and that's like a utopian future.
Yeah, because music can make you cry.
Vote for Senator Mike Lee or whatever. You know, that was
I don't know who that is, but sure.
you know, they have like
Yeah.
it'll be like a thing like that. No, but yeah, that would be the saddest way to die, you know. So Meteor, bring it on, dude. 2050, we're gonna be here. We'll be doing a live stream.
Yeah. The only color we'll be seeing is a white flash of light, you know? And then it's all over.
All right.
Oh, people, it's a selfie.
Your last selfie.
Yeah. A flash of
But we'll
light.
take it on a Polaroid, so just in case, you know,
Yeah,
that
for sure.
survives, we'll put it in the save.
Sorry for extending this longer than it needed to be.
No, it's good. It was a
We
good
ended up
conversation.
Pretty much where were we at?
Okay.
Yeah,
But yeah,
awesome.
that's nice.
Thank you all for engaging in the conversation. That was really cool to hear from you both.
Yeah.
And thank you all. Join us next time.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
Hurry up.